So let's go to screen share. We are gonna talk a little bit about the way I implemented some features, and I will record this, of course, so we can so you guys can rewatch this and perhaps pick up a few things or something. I don't know, and I will be talking a little bit about the stuff that I've implemented. So I've implemented the login functionality. I will just briefly touch on that, and I also implemented the checkout functionality in 2 steps, kind of, meaning that first we can click on a checkout button that is shown to us when there is something in the order, unless if there is no order pending, then we don't show that button. But then we can click on the checkout button, and then after a while, once we have examined our order, we can finalize the order, basically. So I'm going to show you that on my local host here. Let me just shotgun. Let's just create that first, right? So there is a danger that you will get a 500 error sometimes when you do this, or when you start up Shotgun. And one potential problem that you might be facing is the fact that there is a session pending. So this is very important. You have to, if you get a 500 error when you start up your application using Shotgun, you have to go into inspect in your browser, and you have to go to application, go to cookies, open up localhost, and you see that there is something called rack session, right? You need to delete that. Just hit the delete button. Okay. In some instances, depending on what you've been doing, there is a session pending, and in that session there is an order ID stored, or your user ID or whatever, because we're storing some information in the session, and that instant is no longer available in the database, and that could throw you a 500 error. So I mean, there are several scenarios when this can potentially happen. So you just need to go into that session in your browser and clear that session. Just delete it, and it's called the rack session. So you just select that and you clear that out, basically. The other sessions here, like this _GA session, this is Google Analytics, and there could be some other stuff pending. In my case, I have WebStorm and some other stuff. Don't think about that. Just clear the one that is called rack session. All right, and then you can close this. All right, so I've seeded my database with some random stuff, and the way I did it, just to show you that real quickly, is that I updated my seeds file, and this is the file. And here I just I required faker, and I said 10 times do product create, so it will loop 10 times. 10 times do means that we're going to iterate 10 times and execute whatever is in the do block. And I create a product with a faker name, random categories. So I choose product valid categories. This is something that I have on my product model, and I call sample on it. So I know that I have 3 different categories, and it just picks one of them randomly, basically. And in my seeds file, I set the price to something between 10 to 100 units or crowns or whatever you have, and that's using the rand command. So it randomizes any number between 10 and 100. That's a Ruby command. And then I set the description to a faker object, just a paragraph. So that's hence the lorem ipsum stuff, basically, that you'll see on the site. So this is the result of that. And now notice what happens when I add a Caesar salad to my order. There are 2 things that should happen. One, there's a flash saying that Caesar salad was added to your order, but you also see a checkout link now on the header, right? And the way we do that is, of course, in our layout ERB, we have, we can remove that. This is not important. So we do what? What do we do? Right. On line 33, 34, and 35, if there is an order, then we show this link. Okay. So if there is an order in the system, then we show the link. And what is order in this case? Well, order is a helper method that I stored in a file called view helpers, but you can store it in. You already have an auth.rb in the helpers folder, so you can store it there. But I stored it in the views helper, and this is the method that's being called. So if there is a session if the order ID is stored in the session, then we just find that order and make sure that it's available to the view, right? So in our view, this will be called, and if that actually returns something, then this link will be shown. All right. So okay, so let's keep on. Let's add a few more dishes to my order, and you can see here in the background that the stuff are happening on my console, in my logs, and now we can add another one like this, and it says that bruschetta with tomato was added to your order. So okay, so let's see if I go to checkout now, what will happen. Listing the Caesar salad, yada yada yada. We have an order total on 213 crowns, and I have an estimated pickup time that is 11:13. And if you think about it, 45. So this is approximately 30 minutes from now, right? So the thing here is that this one calculates 30 minutes from when the order was created. So it's not optimal yet. I have to probably refactor that, because the order could be created at one point, and then you can keep on adding dishes to it. And thank you, Oliver, for that idea. Actually, yesterday when we were celebrating my birthday, me and Oliver spoke about this, and he came up with this idea. So it still needs a little bit of tweaking, but it's a good thing. I was about to overcomplicate stuff, and he made it a little easier, right? So okay, so here we are listing the order, and I have a button that says confirm order, and in that way. So when we click that, the reason I have this is that the user can still make a decision that he wants to add something more to his order. For instance, of course, we could add some functionality to remove any of these dishes from his order if he changes his mind. I haven't implemented anything of this yet, but it opens up for added functionality, right? But I want him to have a chance to review the order and then make a final decision whether he actually wants to confirm this, right? So we click on the confirm order, and what happens is that we are displaying a message, thank you for your business, or whatever you want to display, and then we are confirming the pickup time, which is according to the requirements that we have for this little project is 30 minutes, right? So now we are actually making that calculating that order from like 30 minutes from when he clicks the confirm order button, right? And note that the checkout link is no longer visible, because what we did now is we clear the session. When this confirm order button is being clicked, we also remove the order ID from the session, because it's no longer needed for anything. Once you've confirmed this order, you should not be able to add new stuff to the order, basically. So that's why this is no longer visible. Another requirement in the project that only a registered user should be able to check out, right? In this iteration, this is my first iteration of the checkout and finalize order feature, so I haven't implemented that requirement yet. basically. But in my opinion, this is the incremental and in the iterative way of doing things. We just make sure that this order is actually being processed somehow, but without overcomplicating things. So there are two things, in my opinion, that are pending here. One is, of course, assigning this order to a user and making him log in to the system before he can finalize it. That's one thing. And the second thing is much more important, in my opinion, and that is that the kitchen or the restaurant or what have you should know about this order, right? I don't have any functionality for this. At this point, the order is just being stored in our database and nothing else, nothing happens. So we need to figure out some sort of a mechanism to notify the restaurant owner that there is actually a new order, not only storing it passively in the database. Does anybody have an idea how we could do that in the simplest form?
What the question again?
How can we notify the restaurant owner or the restaurant that there is actually a new order pending on the in the database, that the order has been created?
Maybe sending an email. I mean, I don't know. It could be a way to notify, like, the owner, for example. So when you click, it gives this page and send an email to the owner. But it's one idea I have. Then probably it's not the most effective.
All right, email. Any other ideas? What do you guys think about Francesco's suggestion?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Oliver?
Me too.
Scott?
B3.
B3. Sophie?
Yeah, I was kind of overcomplicating it in my head first to know, like, that it depends on, like, I thought that the owner would be checked in, like logged into his admin all the time when he's at the restaurant, and then he got notifications there. But email is more simple.
And Susanna?
Yeah, it was my first thought as well. Email.
Right. I think that I mean, there are several things we could do to notify the restaurant about a new order. But I would say that in the first iteration, email is the way to go. It's the simplest solution. We can send a text message. We can have him being logged into to an admin interface and make sure that the admin interface updates itself within certain intervals, because so the order is created in the database on the server, and the admin interface would need to like reload the page over and over again in order to see the new instances. That is called server polling. So you check for new instances on the server after certain time intervals. But you can also use push notifications, which is basically about flipping the process. So the server actively pushes out some information to a web page, which is a functionality that you probably see on Facebook or some other social media applications, where somebody posts a new message. Your feed is automatically being updated. You're being notified on Instagram or Twitter that there are new tweets available, right? So, and stuff like that. So there are quite a few things we could do here, but I would say that in the first iteration, just to make a very simple app, emailing would be the best way to go, right? So we can, if we have time, today we could take a look at that together. However, before we move on to that, I would like to show you more about the moving pieces in my implementation, basically. So what you've seen now is quite a few things that needs to happen in your that is happening in the application, and that of course requires a bit of code to be written, right? And again, as we all know, everything starts with a route, and there needs to be a controller action, and the appropriate data needs to be set in the database, basically, right? So let me just take a look, walk you through this thing. Well, actually, before we do that, we can just do one thing that I deployed this application to Heroku using a very, very simple setup. That what I did is I run a command called Heroku create and an application name. Right, so that created an application on my Heroku. I am logged in using Heroku CLI to that service, and I can run Heroku create and the application name. Then I pushed out whatever I had on my checkout branch to Heroku, which is amazing because so deploying your apps on a virtual server that is run on Heroku is as easy as pushing up your code to GitHub, basically. So what I did was git push Heroku, because now I have Heroku as a remote, and I pushed the checkout branch to master on Heroku, right? So I do checkout cool on master, because on Heroku only the master branch is being used for deployment, right? So I did that. After that, I run the 2 necessary commands in order to populate my to create my database. So I use the Heroku CLI command, and then, as usually on my local machine, rake db create and db migrate. So that runs those commands on the remote server. And then after that, I just did Heroku run rake db seed, just to populate my database with those seed objects, right? And what did I do more? Well, I can just open that application by saying Heroku open, and I can see the application being deployed. So now we are on the remote server. Now, there's some problems with this application, because if you compare this to this, there is the CSS that I'm using on my local host is not working on my deployed site. And I haven't debugged this, but we can do that real quickly. Go to inspect. We can go to console, and we can see that the assets, the application CSS, the normalize and JS files that I have are returning a 404. So there's the application cannot find that. So this is a quite common situation where your local machine does not behave like the virtual machine that you will be pushing out your applications to. We will not fix this now because it would require me to dive into the settings of Sinatra, and we all know that that's kind of tedious and time consuming sometimes. But it's good to acknowledge that this could actually happen, that even if your application works locally on your local host, it doesn't necessarily have to work on a virtual server, meaning that nothing happens until you ship. Right? You have to ship your code and see if it works on the internet, and the explanation, oh, but it worked on my local host, doesn't cut it. It doesn't matter if it works on your machine. At the end of the day, in order to have real users, it has to work on a deployed server, right? Right. So so this comment, it worked on my local host, falls into the same category as, well, it used to work before, or different variants of this kind of explanations, right? It needs to work now, and it needs to work in a real production setting. In this case, it doesn't work. There's some problem, and I will spend some time doing debugging that and making sure that it actually behaves the way we want it to behave, but not now. All right. So this is the deployed application, and I assume that Raul talked you guys through how to deploy to Heroku, so I'm looking forward to seeing your applications deployed as well. But moving on to the stuff that I've done here. Right. Right. There is some stuff that are probably not really working here, but let's take a look at my order model. Now, I have a describe block in my spec, and I just check for the ID, created that and updated that. But I'm also checking for a new attribute called status. Okay, because I want to give my order, I want to give my order a status. So in my opinion, when an order is being created but it's not yet finalized, it should be given the status of pending. It's a pending order, right? And then once the user clicks on finalize, we are changing that status to finalized or completed, I think, or confirmed. Confirmed it is actually. And so I'm checking first for the presence of that attribute, and then I am making sure that the only values that we are allowing in that status attribute are the values that we are setting in the order model. And in the order model, I am creating a constant saying that valid status is either pending or confirmed, right? So, and I also add a validation here that these two values are the only two values allowed in the status attribute. Does that make sense? All right. In my migration, because since I'm modifying my model, and so I need to modify my my database, I add this this new column to the orders table. I give it a name called status. I tell my migration that this will be a string, and you've seen all of that before, but here's an addition. This is something you haven't seen before. I'm setting a default value on this when it's being created. Okay, so every order that will be created, unless I say differently, will be pending. Does that make sense? Good. And why do I set it to pending and not confirmed? Well, because the first state of this order is, of course, pending. This is the natural and logical way to do this. Like, you create a new order, and it will not be finalized. It will be pending. So that's what we do. There's another way to do that. Of course, what we could have done is to say, instead of calling it status, I could call this confirmed and use a Boolean instead, which means true or false, and set the default to false, right? This is just another way of doing that. Instead of setting a string value, I could have set it to true or false. And like true or false values are, of course, to prefer if you are sure that there only will be two options. Like, you know, it's just like flipping a coin, right? Here I wasn't sure when I wrote this if I wanted more states to be present, like, you know, pending, confirmed, and perhaps delivered, or some other stuff, right? So I made this call. It's perhaps not the best call I've ever made, but that's the decision I made. I just want you to see that certain decisions that are being made have reflections on your code, and probably I could have written less code if I used a Boolean, but I didn't, right? So let's just back out of this now. And this is the migration I created. Let's have a look at the controller actions here, right? So right. So yesterday when I talked about creating the order, I talked you through this method, right? There's like those order buttons that we are creating on the menu. When you click that button, this is the code that will be executed, and this code should probably be refactored because there's a little too much stuff happening here. But this is not the interesting part here, right? So what we are hitting when we click the checkout link is this route, right? So we are setting the order to whatever order that helper gives us, and that's a good thing. And then we are rendering the template that is called checkout. So you remember that we had this helper. Where's the helpers? Here are the helpers, right? So this is the helper method that will return whatever order is being stored in the session ID, and return an object for us. And then we just go on and check that and render this this template called checkout. And I create a div with an ID of order details, and I iterate over the order and display the items and the item names together with a price. That's what you saw on that checkout page. And I'm actually doing some other stuff. Well, I'm showing the order total, and I'm showing the finalize button here. Actually, I don't think I need this code anymore. I can remove that. It's just to simplify this. Right. Yes. So I am displaying this link, this confirm order button as a form button rather than a link, because I wanted to do a post request, and you cannot do post requests with links. Links are only for get requests, right? So that's why I created this thing like this. And let me just run my specs cucumber feature user can. What am I trying to do here? User can with order, yes. Right, and why would that fail? Rake test prepare. Right, so the database was not connected. I just dropped it before this meeting. Right, so that passes basically. Okay, so that's good. I could remove that code. It was redundant for me. All right. So this is what happens on the checkout page. That's how we display the order, and we have this confirm order button. And once that confirm order post request has been hit, we do certain things, right? First, we take the order and we update the attribute of status from pending to confirmed. That's what this line does. Then we set the pickup time to whatever pickup time helper method returns to us. And just to have a look at it, it just takes order updated at in time zone CET, because that's Sweden, plus 30 minutes. That's fucking amazing. Because active model gives us this thing, so you can take the time that is current, the current time, and just add 30 minutes to it, and then we just return that as a string from time with hours and minutes, right? So that's what this method will return to us. And so this instance variable will in this case be 12:30 or something. And then we do this very important thing. We clear the order ID from the session. So we just say session order ID equals nil. Before that, it actually stored the order that was what we were working on currently. And but as soon as we have the order confirmed, we need to get rid of that session, so to make it disappear. And then we are rendering a template saying finalized. And that is a very simple template saying that thank you for your business. Confirmed pickup time is whatever we stored in that instance variable, right? And in terms of my features, where are my features? Where are my features? There are. So I split this up into two feature files and also several scenarios. So the first one is user can add product to feature, and I'm making use of this cucumber data table. I talked to you guys about that yesterday. I have one one scenario where I'm adding the first object, like the first dish to my order, and then I can add a second product to my order. And here I want to show you an interesting thing. In order to keep this simple, or this second scenario a bit shorter, I'm using a nested step definition. And this one is something you guys haven't seen before. So if we take a look at this one, given there is an order with order item kebab, all right, if we take a look at the step definition for this one, it is actually something like this, right? So we are using the cucumber steps command, and then I'm nesting two other steps into this. So when you read the scenario, only one, only this will be visible to the reader, but it actually runs two other steps that are also defined in my step definitions, right? So this way I can shorten certain scenarios by nesting those step definitions. And I just, in this case, it's only two step definitions, and it wasn't really, there is no real meaning of doing that, apart from I wanted to show you guys that this is totally possible, that you can reuse step definitions within other step definitions. Okay, just to manage your own level of abstraction. Okay, so that's what I do here, and I'm adding another. So I already have kebab in my order, and I click order on hamburger, and then I should see the flash that is supposed to be shown, and then I make an assertion that the order should contain kebab and the order should contain hamburger. So I want to make sure that I have both of these products in my order, right? And this step definition is pretty word. I made a small refactoring from yesterday. That's why I kept this comment around. So like yesterday, before I extended this scenario to include this to be able to check what happens when I add the second item. I was just doing order items first, because at that point I knew I only had one order item. But now I want to make sure that we're looking for the right thing, and that's why I crafted this line 16, where I'm using the detect method, which you guys I think used in the library challenge. So I'm looking into my collection for a specific thing, and I just want to make sure that is that is actually included in that. If this line would return nothing to me, then I know that this product is not part of the order yet, because it's not in the order items collection. All right. Then I added a new feature called user with order can check out. As a visitor, in order to get the food I ordered, I would like to be able to finalize my order checkout, right? So again, we're reusing the step definitions when we create some products in the database. We have to do that on every feature file. But here I'm using another step that you guys haven't seen, and that's what I want to talk to you about. I want to make sure that I know what time it is in my test environment. And why would I want to do that? Well, of course, because I'm gonna calculate the delivery time somehow, right? So in order to know, or to be able to foresee what time plus 30 minutes will be, there are several scenarios, of course, that you can use, and me and Oliver discussed this yesterday. That's where I got this idea from taking the created at. But this is more readable for me. If I am a non-technical stakeholder, and you know that cucumber files or cucumber tests can be read by non-coders, it is more readable to actually state here that we are dealing with time, and we want to say that time is noon at this point, right? So that's why I have this step here. And note that I moved a lot of other things out to the background, so they will all be executed before each scenario. Okay, so it's like the before block that we used before in RSpec. All of this stuff will be executed before each scenario is being run, right? So I visit the site and there's an order with order item kebab and there's an order with order item pizza. I just want to make sure that I have two stuff in my order, right? Let's have a look though at this step definition, and the time is 12 o'clock, because I'm using an external library called TimeCop. There's another one that is called DeLorean, actually, from Back to the Future movies. Anyway, I use TimeCop for now. And so with TimeCop, what I can do is I can freeze time in test environment. I can tell the system that the time is whatever I choose it to be, right? So in this case, I am setting the time to the 1st of January 2017, and whatever time we are passing in to this variable in the step definition. All right. So when this is executed, server time is being set to January 1st at noon. Okay. So that's good. That gives us control over certain things, right? And what we can do now is to do another piece of Cucumber magic, because we are. I'm introducing here something called scenario outline rather than scenario, and this is a slightly different thing. And the reason why I'm doing this is just to make your life harder, of course. Just to let you know that there are other things, other ways of testing. And line 22 is pretty straightforward. I click on the checkout. Then I'm making an assertion that I should be on the checkout page. So I just want to make sure that this is the path. Not really necessary, but I let it be. It's included there. But line 24 is interesting, because I'm saying that then I should see product and price in the order. And I'm no longer using double quotes as we usually do, but I'm using those less than and more than tags, right? Because this is an scenario outline. This notation is made available to us, and what product and price is, we can see down below here in the examples table, right? So the product will be kebab and price will be 75 at the first iteration, and then the second iteration will be set to pizza and 50. So this saves me one line of code. Okay, again, this is not much in this point, but sometimes there is a real use case for this. If I didn't have this scenario outline, I had to have the kebab and pizza and prices coded and added as a separate step, right? And if you think about it, in your Cucumber scenarios, there's a lot of step repetition, right? And that's cool. It's not a big problem, but after a while, they become harder and harder to read, right? And one readability problem that you've probably noticed yourself is this creation of products. I know that in the first iteration, I used something. There is a product named with a name and a price with a price and a description, and all of a sudden this line is more than 80 characters long and it's become very hard to read. I would say that this notation with the background using the Cucumber table is much more readable, right? And the same thing here is that we could reuse this stuff because it becomes more readable sometimes, you know. Of course, this is something that you guys can make decisions on your own, but I just wanted to point you to the functionality that is available to us in Cucumber. All right, so this is a scenario outline about what the user sees when he clicks on the checkout button, and then we have another scenario where user can finalize his order. And what we do is that we are on the site. We click on the checkout, we click on the confirm order, and then we should see thank you for your business, and I should see confirm pickup time is 12:30, and the final assertion is that I want to make sure that my order is marked as confirmed, right? And again, here we know that we have an order object stored already in an instance variable. I talked to you guys about that yesterday, that the difference between local variables and instance variables is that the instance variables are available across step definitions. However, I need to reload that order, so I need to hit the database again and fetch that instance again, and I need to and then I make an assertion that this order is confirmed. And now I'm using another interesting thing in RSpec and Capybara. I'm using this predicate matcher, that since I have a confirmed method, confirmed question mark method, then RSpec automatically gives me, and we are using RSpec matchers here, automatically gives me a custom matcher that is be confirmed, right? So this RSpec are reacting to my code, the way I've written code, basically. So that's about the feature files. Let's have a quick look at the spec for order, because there is another thing I didn't mention when we visited this file a few minutes ago, and it's these two lines of code, right? I want the order to answer a question about itself. Are you a pending order or are you a confirmed order, right? So I added these two specs, that an instance of the order class should respond to a pending question mark method and a confirmed question mark method. And this is just a basic test, but I could have probably expanded on that. But let's have a look what it does on order. Sorry, here we are. Right. So here is the pending method, right? If my status equals pending, then I return true on this. Understand? If I say order.pending question mark and that particular order status is set to pending, then it returns true. And the same thing here with this, right? We do not have to say this, like if return true, right? And then else return false, right? We could have written this like this. So this question is like, if you are pending, then return true, else return false, right? This might seem logical. In Ruby, we don't have to do that because it's totally redundant. First of all, the return key is not used. I mean, it's optional, right? So we can remove that. But secondly, if something is not true, then it's automatically false. So if this evaluates to false, then that's what's going to be returned, basically. So we can shorten this much, oops, sorry. We can shorten this by just removing the if statement totally and just keep it like this, right? And it's a one-liner, and that's what makes Ruby so beautiful, but sometimes hard to read for beginners, right? And it's the same thing here. Like if it equals to confirm, then it is confirmed, right? So that will return true to us. And if you're unsure about what this question mark methods do, check the naming convention document that we shared with you guys in the beginning of the camp, where we talk about how to name different methods. Generally speaking, methods that are returning an answer true or false are created with a question mark at the end, basically. Does that make sense? Kind of. All right. So that's good. That's good. And then, of course, we have this total method. I mentioned it yesterday. This is important to us because we're making use of that in the checkout ERB, I think, right? Yes, here. The order total is set to total value. And I think on my browser, well, I don't have the thing running, but when I go to checkout, you can see that happens. So in my test, and this is important that you kind of understand, because sometimes the tests become really big, and this is like a lot of code just to test one simple thing. It's like I have to create some products. Remember, the test database is totally empty when I start my specs. So I have to create some products, and I have to create those order items and add them to the order. And then I can call, order or subject total, and that should equal to something, right? And in this case, I know that I've added product one, which is priced on to 25 units, and the second product has a price of 50. And then that should equal 75, right? And I will not go into this now, but this could be heavily shortened. Like, we don't have to have all of these stuff. For instance, we know that, the only thing that we are looking for here is the price, right? We don't necessarily have to have real product. So one thing that you could say to me now is that, Thomas, you could have used a double instead of creating a real product. In the end, the answer is yes, of course. I could have used an instance double or a class double to just forget about what the product requires. I could have just used just a double that has the price, because that's the only thing interesting for me. However, doubles do not work so well with active record, and therefore there is another way of creating fake objects that is called factory bot, and we have that gem installed in our gem file. We are not making use of it though, and it's out of scope for today's talk. But I just want to mention to you that specs, and in your test environment, you can use more fake objects than real objects, and it's actually better, because then you don't write to the database too much, and you don't have to write that as much code, which is good, basically. Okay, so what else? Well, just to recap, we have the welcome thing. We have we're showing the categories and just displaying the categories name and grouping the products into that categories. I have a form here that are sending off this specific product ID to a controller action. When I click on the order button, I'm setting this ID to a specific unique ID, so I can identify those products. Once this is being clicked, and once I've added all the dishes that I want to add, I click on the checkout button that is conditionally displayed to me if there is an order or not. I'm hitting the checkout ERB after the controller's done its work. I can review my order, and I can click the confirm order button as a end user, and that takes me to the finalize action, and that does its magic, setting the order to completed or confirmed, clearing out the session, setting the delivery time 30 minutes from now, and then it displays this finalized ERB, where we thank the customer for his business and confirm the pickup time again. Now, at this point, he already knows what he ordered. So now the only interesting thing here is to tell him when he's supposed to pick it up. Of course, probably we should tell him where to pick it up and such. There's a lot of other things we could do, but that's what happens. And so that would pretty much conclude my talk. What I have to say now, the only thing I want to add is that somewhere here, I would say send email to restaurant. That should happen here at some point, or even actually before we clear the session, because we probably need that information, right? So when we're running the finalize method in our controller, the final part of the refactor of the functionality that needs to be added is to actually notify the restaurant that there is an order. All right. Any questions, people?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's probably out of scope. It is out of scope. I was thinking, like, you know, because now you can have only 2 products in your cart because
No.
you define. Oh no. No, what I mean is, like, at the end you have like the first order and the second in the feature, right?
I can have how many? I can have as many products as I want. Let me just demonstrate that so we don't have any. I mean, in my test. So in my test, I only wrote a scenario about adding two products, but I can have as many as I want. So let's just fire this one up, and we go here. Let me just reload the page to see if we get any errors or not. No, all good. All right. So here is one product, right? Caesar salad was added. Now I add some Ebiten maki for 26 crowns. That's been added. And now I add a lasagna that is surprisingly marked as a dessert. All right. So now if I go to checkout, I have three products here. You want me to add more?
No, but yeah, I mean, no, that wasn't. You're answering my question.
All right. So what is really important is that we need to separate intellectually what's happening in the tests and what's happening in the application, right? So the application is one thing, and we can write scenarios from quite a few different, angles and testing that, and which is good. The more the better. But at some point it becomes redundant. Like, why would I test? So if I can add 2, so then I probably can add 3. But if in doubt, just let's write that scenario. You know what I mean? But after a while, it's like you have to stop. It's also like when you test for what you want to see on the page, right? There's also sometimes a use case for telling Cucumber what you don't want to see, right? But that is also something that at some point becomes really weird. So if I want to see hello Thomas, there's like a bunch of stuff I don't want to see, like the entire Encyclopedia Britannica, but I don't want to write tests for it, right? I don't see this and I don't see that, and so at some point we want to stop, basically, right? So in my order now I can add even more products and just keep on adding that, as we say, right? So now we have this, and we have the updated order total and confirm order, right? Okay. So as I was saying, one thing could be a button remove from order if somebody changes his mind. Another thing that could be added is like, just apart from just having an order, you could have an input field saying how many Caesar salads you want to order. Perhaps you want to order 2. Now with this functionality, you actually have to press this button twice. And if I do press it twice, which is another shortcoming of this implementation, is of course that when I go to checkout, I see it twice, right? Like, so I see the Caesar salad here, and I see the Caesar salad here, which of course shouldn't be the case. I should say 2 times Caesar salad, right? It's much better. It's better UX, etc., etc. You can go on forever, and this is the thing. Like, this is the difference between an MVP and a shippable product, right? The minimal viable product is it has shortcomings, right? I would say that for the first iteration, this is kind of acceptable. I would say, right? All right, so that's it, people. Let's not overdo this. We've been at it for an hour now, almost exactly. So let's just call it quits here. This code will be made available on my repository on the develop branch in just 5 minutes. I will send you a link. Feel free to look into it. Please do not copy and paste this code because it's just fucking embarrassing. But get inspired, And as I said, you guys are supposed to work on the UX stuff, but I would really like you to get a little bit further with the functionality, so there's actually something to style. Okay, so I would like, don't think about the user check-in. I mean, the user logging in or being forced to log in before finalizing the order. We can work with that later today, or we can work with sending out an email if you have time tonight or something, or we can do it tomorrow. It doesn't matter to me. But like, try to get the checkout and the finalized order functionality in, because that's kind of like important features, I would say, and then start styling this. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff, people. Any questions?
I just have a small one.
Go ahead.
Yesterday, when Raul had his talk on Heroku, he said that you can't do break DB create, because Heroku it has a database already. I'm just wondering, because you did create. I'm just wondering.
Right. So that's his opinion. I just did it, and it worked for me. So he is better at DevOps than me. So perhaps my ignorance and stupidity just I don't know. I have no clue. I ran RakeDB create and it worked. So perhaps it was redundant. Perhaps it was already created. But do what Raul tells you. If it doesn't work, then do what I tell you. In this case, because Raul is actually a much better technician than I am. But you know how it is. Sometimes ignorant people get away with stuff, and that's what happened with me now, probably. All right. You good, guys? Oliver, Scott, are you good?
Yes, I just have a small question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, my son. Go ahead.
Fuck.
No fuck. No, there is no swearing. It's just me. I'm the only one who can swear.
Okay. Oh my God. The assessment we had yesterday. If you didn't finish it, you were supposed to finish it.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
In 25 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, in 25 minutes. Yeah. Is that a must? Can I?
Yes, it's a must. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Love you.
It is. Yes, guys. I said, that's what we said yesterday. So yes, it's a must. Go ahead. Of course, 20 minutes here and there, like half an hour. If you have to push it to 12:30, I ain't gonna kill you for it. But please, just finish it up. All right.
Yes. Bye.
Bye. Anybody else who has any questions about the assessments? Which is actually called tech interview training, but okay. No? All good? Live long and prosper, guys. I'm going to get a coffee and a cigarette now. And lunch. It's lunchtime, brunch time. Take it easy, guys.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.